Hi, are you a mum who is a mum who's got the whole mum thing to do? You've got to look after your house. You may have a husband that you need to spend time with. You perhaps have a job. You are maybe trying to start a business, which many of the mums I work with are. You there may be other things such as life getting in the way, like moving house or having other, more children or birthdays and actually enjoying life. And actually, how do you fit it all in? And how do you keep on going when all of this stuff is piling down on top of you and you just can't see anything for looking? You just get in such a haze, and I get this, and I think everybody, if you ask anyone who is trying to run a business around a family, and even especially if you are holding down a job as well, you are going to get overwhelmed. But it's how you deal with that and how you try and get the most out of every day to make sure that you carry on moving forward. And I find that I'm my most overwhelmed and completely inadequate at everything when I'm lost. I don't know what I should be doing. I don't have a plan. I've got things coming into my inbox every day, messages, my to-do list getting bigger, and I just don't know which way to turn, and I end up basically doing nothing, and I waste days in this state of just not even having a clue what I'm doing. So this video really is to try and help you with some strategies to find more time so that you can build your business, so that you can start, winding down your hours at work, or if you're not at work, then, finding more time to build your business bigger. So the first thing you really should do is spend a week and do a bit of a time diary, because we think that things are taking our time up and that we spend a lot of time on things, but until we write that down, we don't really know. And it's a bit like a food diary. If you've ever been on a diet, you can convince yourself that you have eaten really, really healthy all day. It's not until you write it down that you realise that you snuck in a little 2-finger Kit Kat and a hot chocolate, and oh yeah, you had a cake, and then it's not until you write it down and you're really sort of monitoring it officially that you really get a grasp on where your calories are going, and in our case where your minutes and your hours are going. So write a diary of just a piece of paper that you carry around with you, and you sort of say, I spend an hour a day commuting. I spend 2 hours with the children. I spend, this long doing laundry. I do this long on Facebook. I watch this much telly. So get it all down on a week, and then you can see where your time is actually going, and if you've actually got any additional, if you can start seeing if there's any windows or anything you can do differently to free up some of your time. When you've done that, you can see if there are any sort of time thieves, and things like Facebook and email and all the social media. It's fantastic because we're connected with everyone all the time. But actually, if you look at how much time, the odd 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, half an hour, and that's not very structured time that is producing you any results unless your business is based on Facebook. And even then, you have to be really careful that you don't give in to all of your working time being about keeping up with the latest news on there. So if you find that you do, when you add up over the week that you spent like 3 hours a week on Facebook, well, that's a massive amount of time, and you can create real massive action in your business if you took that time and did something structured with it. So I'm not saying to cut it out, but if you monitor and be really strict with yourself, and it's going to take a lot of willpower to begin with if you're used to hopping on there regularly throughout the day, to just have set times that you go on Facebook, and try and have those times when you don't need to have real focused time. So if there's sort of dead time when you're waiting, if your children are older and you're doing dance classes and stuff or swimming, can you, while you're sort of waiting, or you're waiting in the car, if you can check your Facebook then and catch up, so that actually when you're sat down at your computer and actually having time to sit and do something, you don't need to look at it. So it's determining what time, what is focus time, and what you can do when you're just sort of, you're multitasking a bit. Also, after you've done all that, ask yourself the question, what could I do differently? So look at your week at the end of the week and say, what could I do differently to free up some extra time? You know, if you're cooking a meal every day, could you cook bigger meals every other day so that you're not having to cook every day? You know, batch them, freeze them. Is there something that you can do there to free up a little bit of your time? And each time you're doing something differently like that, you're potentially saving half an hour a day, so that's an hour a week. Again, an hour you can do loads with. When you do get your hours, when you find a chunk of time that you can sit down, perhaps it's an evening, that's when I tend to do a lot of my work. What you don't want to do is sit down and think, right, what is it I've got to do now? And then you think, oh, I'll just have a check on Facebook, like I said, or emails or stuff. When you sit down and you know that you've got an hour or an evening and you've got lots to do, you need a plan in front of you. So this is where lists come in, and I could not live my life without lists. I am a prolific list builder, and I've read every time management book I can possibly think of, and they all feature lists pretty much, but in different structures. What I find works well for me is I have a master to-do list. So everything I can think of, business, cooking dinner, texting someone, whatever, when I'm writing my list, I put it all down. Then what I do is, as I think things, you know, I add it to the bottom of the list, so I'm just keeping that one massive list. Then what I do is I go through and I'll highlight the things that are important and I'll move those over. So if as I'm starting my day, or before the day, so the night before, I would go through and I think, what do I want to do tomorrow? What needs to be done tomorrow? And I will sort of pick the sort of 5 things, or I do end up picking more than I can physically do, which is something you really need to be aware of. So pick like 5 things that you want to achieve tomorrow in whatever area, whatever's important right then, and then you put that in your diary so that you can tick those 5 things off. And you do that every day, and at the end of the week you go through your master to-do list and you tick everything off that you've done. And so you're ticking things off twice, but for me that's really reassuring, because the act of ticking things off makes you feel that you've achieved something. And when you get to the end of your week and you think, I haven't really done anything this week, and you go through your master list and you've actually ticked off loads, potentially like 25 things, you think, oh yeah, no, I had a good week, and you allow yourself to sort of relax and think, you know, I have moved forward with a lot of things. So, and if you find, you know, what might be better than that, if you have the time, is once a week to go through your list and say what needs to be done this week, and actually put things in your diary for the whole week, or even 3 months time, you know, however far ahead you can think. If you're really, really busy, that can help you to prioritize what needs to be done now. Because if you're putting something in your diary that you're going to do that in 2 months' time, so say you've got a website to do and you're putting everything in your diary and you're being really realistic about what you actually can fit in each day, you would sort of put something in and say 6 weeks' time to do, you know, finish off the website. Now you will have something come up inside you that's like, oh no, you know, I need to do that quicker than 6 weeks. I can't not do it for 6 weeks. So you need to bring that forward and then move other things back. So you can start prioritising. So if you do it in pencil, you can rub things out and get things. So this isn't a quick thing. You might spend an hour getting everything from your list into your diary and working out when you're going to do things. But that is an hour really well spent. You will not spend another hour better than that if you've planned your whole week out, or your whole, you know, the next 6 weeks out, whatever, you know, as far as you can go. So you know that you're doing your website in 6 weeks' time, you've got a slot allocated to do that. You can then forget about that because you know that it's there, you've got time aside, there's nothing you can do about it now, so you can forget about it and you're going to do it when you get there. So the good thing about that, the 2 things that are really good about that strategy is that you are prioritising because you're getting things in date order. You're checking with yourself if that's okay to leave it until then, and then you're letting go of the burden of having to do it until you get there. So you will feel so much better, because the problem is when you've got everything going around your head and there's no structure in when you're going to do what, then you just think you've got to do it all now. Well, you cannot do it all now. You cannot get through your list. My master lists are normally 2 sides of A4. But if I sat down and just didn't have a clue what I was going to do first, I'd probably just pick all the easy things off and not the things that I needed to do. And then I would be really, really stuck. You know, I'd waste loads of time, and So it's really important to get that really clear of when you're going to do what. What also works is when I've got loads to do, I will look in my diary. So if I've picked like 10 things that I have to do that day, I will put a number by each one. So I will number them sort of 1 to 10, and I will be strict and do number 1 first, number 2 second, third, and I will work through rather than just picking and choosing what I want to do. So what you do is when you're feeling like the night before, when you're thinking, right, tomorrow I'm going to have a really good day, what am I going to get through first, what's really important, number them, and then you just if it comes up, you just do it, okay? And if it's really overwhelming, just make a start. If you don't finish it, it's the act of starting that's really going to make you feel better. And when you start, you quite often will go on to finish. But that's you can make a start, and if it's too much, you can sort of park that and add it back to your list. You break things up into small little chunks. So as long as you're starting it, then that's a massive move forward for you. And getting it, I just touched on this, but getting it onto a list gets it out of your head. And if you're not writing it down, then it is just swirling around when you're lying there in bed. Oh, I've forgotten to do that, or I must remember to do that. And it's all up here. If you get it on your master list and you treasure that list so it goes nowhere, you really, you don't lose it, then safe in yourself, that everything you need to do is captured, and it's just a matter of working through it in a logical order. So going back to you planning, looking and analysing your week, you can also find time in there that perhaps is dead time. So by that I mean, commuting to work, cooking a dinner, things where you're doing something that is you're not having to give it a lot of thought, but perhaps there are things that you can do there. Now obviously there's, if you're driving the car, the only thing you can really do is listen. So what I tend to do is I download podcasts or ebook, like audiobooks and stuff like that. So if I know that I need to be researching something or looking, learning about a particular topic, I'll make sure that my iPhone is charged with all this information so that when I'm in the car on my own, I pop it on and I can listen to whatever it is that I feel that I need to listen to. So at the moment I am devouring anything on internet marketing. So I've got loads of internet marketing podcasts, audiobooks, and I just put it on and I'm listening to it as I'm driving. So I'm not having to do that or fit that in time which I can actually get stuff done. Same as if you, like I say, if you are, there's a lot of waiting around, if you're waiting for swimming lessons and things like that, are there things that you could be reading or planning? Have a little notebook and do your, your lists and your planning of the week, with your diary. You can do things like that. So the key here is to do all of that stuff so that when you get your hour at your computer, which is your time to do work on your business, you already know what you have to do that hour and you just do it. Okay, there's none of the I'm lost and you've wasted that hour. That is what is really going to help you move forward, because you will be able to find a good couple of hours a week at least to work on your business. The other thing is to try and find some help. So if you are juggling a career and you're trying to build up a business and you're a mum, then are you expecting too much of yourself? Because when you start a business, there is a lot to do, and I mean a lot to do. And it's overwhelming. So is there any way that you can build in some help? So whether it's family or friends. And I know it seems silly that at the beginning you're spending out on maybe paying someone to do something for you because you haven't got money coming in, but you have got your salary. And if you sort of pigeonhole a little bit of your salary to help with paying someone to do stuff to get your business moving, then that's going to move you closer and quicker to your goal, in that you will want to leave your job and do your business full time. If you're just not getting anything done, then that's not going to happen. So you need to start making progress in your business if that's what your goal is. So by bringing someone on, and you don't have to, there's lots of other mums out there that would love a little bit of flexible work that fits around the kids, and they're happy to sort of do as and when work because that suits them as well. So if your business is about making things, which a lot of the mums that I work with it is there a way that you can pay someone to, for everything they do on your behalf? So we make jewellery, and there's some sanding and polishing in that. So if you train someone up to do the sanding and polishing, which, you know, is something that someone else could do, so you make the jewellery, then those things that could be outsourced quite easily, then you can pay them on a, you know, as you get paid to make it, you section off a little bit of that income to pay someone to do some of the other bits. Because the thing that you have to do is build and work on and market your business. That is really difficult to outsource. So if you can find bits of the actual doing, that's going to help you build. Because the other thing is you might hold yourself back through the fear of getting really too busy, because you've got your job and your kids and everything, and actually you might not want to grow your business too much, because the thought of having loads and loads of orders is quite an overwhelming thought in itself. So if you have someone lined up that you can say, look, I've got 10 orders, could you sand 10 charms for me, and could you polish 10 charms for me, and here's X amount of pounds for that. Yes, you're not making as much profit, but it's allowing you to grow and spend that time doing something that only you could do. So you definitely want to be thinking about finding that sort of support or outsourcing. So some of the things that you just aren't very good at or you don't enjoy, start outsourcing them as soon as you can, because that's going to free your time up to do the more strategic things, which, like I say, it is what you are doing, because you are essentially a builder of your business and not necessarily the doer, if you're wanting to grow a relatively big business. And then very finally, I think you need to sort of check in with yourself and make sure that your vision and your goal is really, really clear. So if you're not really sure what it is you're trying to achieve, then you're going to find it really hard to motivate yourself to do that. So by getting really clear on your vision and what it is you're trying to get to, why you want to get there, you know, what's your life going to be like once you get there, and what your ultimate goal is, the clearer you are on that, and the more that excites you when you think about it. So if you've got this vision and goal of running your own business, that you can pick the kids up from school and drop them off, and you haven't got the pressure of trying to, you know, wear all these different hats and things, then that is going to motivate you. You hold on to that feeling, and that is going to make you sort of stay on the computer a little bit longer, or get up that little bit earlier to find that hour to do the work that you need to do. So if you're finding that you're procrastinating on your business, maybe your vision isn't strong enough, or maybe you don't believe you can actually do it, and that, you know, you're sort of preparing yourself that you just don't have the time to make this work. Well, if your vision is strong enough and you truly believe this is possible, you will make it work. And so you've really got to find that belief that you can do this, it is possible, and the results of when you get there are far better than, you know, of where you are now. So it's a real pull for you to do what you need to do. So this is quite a long episode, but it's a really, really important one, because it's the one thing that is going to get in the way of you and your success. Because when you get overwhelmed and you get to a place where you're completely ineffective and you're not doing anything, then your business is going to just wither away. And if you haven't even started your business, you're just going to give up before the first hurdle. So dealing with this, finding that extra time, dealing with the overwhelm, protecting yourself from that overwhelm is crucial for success. So hopefully this has helped. I'm going to try and put some of this onto paper and show you how I construct my to-do lists, so that you can sort of follow those if it works. I actually know of a few different systems, so I will touch on all the different systems that I know about, so that you can choose the one that works for you. There are lots of to-do apps on the phone, and I've probably downloaded most of them, and I sort of think to myself, right, I'm going to get really organised. I'm going to put all of my tasks, my master to-do list, into my app, and then I can filter them and group them, and, you know, which you can't do on paper. I always, without fail, end up back at my paper list, because there's something about pen and paper, ticking it off, scribbling and writing, and I rewrite out my list. Once I've, you know, crossed off a good sort of 50% of the list, I rewrite it out again, which is a really good feeling, because you end up with a smaller list temporarily. So it's all about creating those opportunities for you to feel like you are making progress, you are getting forward and moving forward and ticking things off and living, you know, you're doing it. And I have every faith that you can do this. You just need to make sure that you negotiate through this tricky adjustment period, really, of wearing an extra hat of running a business. So have fun, enjoy it as well, you know. And remember, one last thing, that the reason you are probably starting a business if you're a mum is to spend more time with your kids. So do not neglect that, and remember that that is what you're trying to do. So find those extra hours when it's not going to affect your time with the kids, because you'll just start resenting your business, you know. So when they're in bed, that's when you can start doing a bit of extra work, or get up a little bit earlier. Or, you know, it may be that you want to put them into a nursery or a play thing just for a little bit, for a few hours, so that you can focus on your business. They can have fun with other friends and stuff. They're not sort of waiting around seeing their mum stressed trying to fit in lots of different things. So have a think about that as well. If you know, it's very important that you don't lose sight of why you're doing this, because like I say, you'll start to resent it. So yeah, hopefully this has been helpful. Like I say, my name is Victoria Caseborn, and I'm really passionate about trying to help mums find that way that help them, basically helping them to find more time, more money, which is going to allow them to spend more time with the ones that they love, and that's what it's all about. So thanks for watching.